Good evening. Thank you so much for listening. I'm so grateful that you're all here listening. It is terrifying when a room full of people that are chilling and talking and hanging out and inspecting one thing suddenly gets all quiet just because of me playing a couple of notes. But that's what I've come to understand over the years happens with Earth fans. People who come to Earth shows are some of the best listeners that I've ever met, and wouldn't expect New York City to be any exception. So thank you so much for being here. That's right. My name is Steve Moore, and I go by STEBMO when I'm doing this sort of thing. And I'm very grateful to Dylan Carlson and to Earth, to my friends in Earth, for having me here tonight, for allowing me to do this before the show, to play for you guys. It's probably a known secret, but I'll let it out of the bag now that I'm in the band, which is how I got the gig. So it's the nepotism that you've been hearing about so much. It's we've caught the bug here. So. That's all you have to do is play in Earth for 20 years and the gig is yours. So think about it. No, but in all seriousness, you also probably know why we're here and why I say 20 years. I haven't played with the band for about 10 years or so. And it's been such a pleasure to be back. We're here tonight and on these tours sort of celebrating, honoring this album that we made 20 years ago called Hex. And that's what we're going to do here tonight for you. And this has been a really wonderful opportunity for me to reflect quite a bit on what this experience has meant to me, which is a great deal. I recall the very first day that I encountered the music of Earth so clearly. It's like burned into my memory. I remember going into the studio. I hadn't heard of the band. I had no idea what was going on. I'd been doing a lot of session work, at this place, and I went in and put the headphones on, got the trombone, and immediately it blew my mind. I was not quite prepared for it. Things went well, though, that day. We worked, I think, a couple of days on the tracks, and as luck would have it, I was able to join the band at that point, and we spent many beautiful, deep years together. Traveling the world and playing this music for audiences, getting deeper with each other and with the music and the experience, especially for me. The experience of it completely changed the way that I think about music and humanity's relationship to it, and just life in general. So I've been taking a decent chunk of my time here before the Earth sets to kind of talk a little bit about that experience and what I've learned from it in an attempt to kind of impart that, to speak about it a little bit. So I hope you don't mind. I know at first it seemed like I wouldn't talk at all. And now maybe you're wondering if I'll ever play again, but I will. It's a kind of a overused metaphor to say that music is a language. It's like a language. It's similar to a language. It's deeper than a language. I don't think it applies the same limiting principle that language does. If you are thinking in words and you're understanding the universe around you in words, in a way that's a bit of a limiting thing. You can't see or understand some of the things that you don't have words to describe. But music is deeper than that. It comes to us on a much more fundamental level. We're kind of physiologically designed for this. But I think it works nicely, this language metaphor. So if we're going to say that it's like a language, then what is the substance of this language if it's not words? And what it is these regular temporal patterns, these little bits of time, different ones interacting with each other. And that's, of course, what we're doing here tonight on stage, what all music is. And as listeners and as performers, because we're also listeners, we sit at the center of this experience. And the experience is happening all around us. But we're speaking about it in terms of time. So I have to say a little bit more about that. On the one side, this music thing it is slower than you, okay? That's this one part of it. It exists slower than us. And in music, we call this rhythm, these rhythmic oscillations. And a rhythmic oscillation then is something that is so clearly separated, like night and day, or winter, spring, summer, and fall, of course, because the cosmos is temporal oscillations, or a little bit closer to us and to music, you know, something like this, okay? And as these rhythmic oscillations speed up, they cross over some sort of hard to identify barrier of the self, and they become then faster than you. And in music, we call these oscillations pitch or harmony, these faster than you oscillations. I think you know what those are. And it sort of brings up this question, this faster than and slower than you. It's like, I don't normally think of myself as a speed, right? But of course we are that. We're sort of these complex beings, a complex of many different temporal patterns, circadian rhythms and so forth, you know, thousands of different processes happening in our bodies and our cells, and in our minds, of course. And so I like to sort of set up these two poles to help me kind of orient myself to this. And if you're old enough to remember this, before they were going to do something bad, they used to talk about this hearts and minds stuff. And it works nicely for this. So on the slower side, on the rhythmic side, our hearts serve as a good pole. I should just point out really quickly that this is a giant pickup, and it's particularly sensitive to cell phones. So I don't know, but maybe that's just the city. We're in the big city. Okay. Anyway, as I was saying, so the heart beats about 1 to 2 times per second, okay? And this is right around the area where most music happens, okay? And sometimes, like your heart, it can go slower than that if you're good at meditating or relaxing or you're sleeping. And of course, it can go much faster than that if you are hunting or having sex or racing to catch the train, for example. Okay, so that's the one side. Your heart serves as this pole to the slower than you rhythmic oscillations. And then on the other side, we have this thing, these things called brain waves, okay, which maybe you've looked this up. If you have an EKG reading of your brain, you'll find that there are these resonant oscillations happening in your brain. There's this electrical current resonating. And these oscillations are happening, you know, on the slow side around 5 times per second. If you're relaxing, meditating, or sleeping, or something like this. And they can go up to like 20 to 25 times per second if you're very alert, which we already talked about that stuff. And so this right there, 25 times per second, that's right around where we start to hear this phenomenon of pitch, where these distinctly separated oscillations become a buzz of sorts. And these go all the way up to, you know, in your hearing, 10, 20,000 times per second, depending on like how many Earth shows you've seen and whether you wear earplugs and stuff like this. So, okay, now, within this pitch half of things, there's a very distinct phenomenon which lies at the root of music, and it's called the harmonic series. If you took physics class, they call it the natural modes there. In music, we say the harmonic series. And what it is, simple enough to understand, when you put energy into a resonant body, like a guitar string, or like this trombone, which I'll play later, that energy takes hold in this resonant body, and it forms what we would call a standing wave. That is one positive half of the oscillation from one end to the other, and then this negative half coming back to the other side. And something just to say very quickly, we have 5 senses. 3 of them are tactile. What are they? Touch, taste, and smell, right? So I can touch this microphone. What I'm trying to say is these tactile senses, you have to come into contact with the thing you're checking out, okay? So I can touch the microphone. I could taste it. I don't want to. And in some clubs, not here, but you can smell them. Okay, but the way these resonant oscillations are working with your other two senses, those two are magic. They're apprehension at a distance, okay? So when I put air into this trombone, it's resonating inside of the trombone, and that resonance then gets transmitted as a vibration through the air and hits your eardrum. And your eardrum doesn't hear the air rustling around against your ear, or your hair or whatever. What it hears is the trombone. So it's apprehension at a distance. So your brain, physiologically designed to give you this information about something, this natural phenomenon that's happening inside of there. And that's what we're here playing with tonight. Now this harmonic series, this one standing wave within the resonant body, if I add a little bit more energy to that, it doesn't go to 1.1 waves or 1.5, because those things don't exist. What happens is it jumps immediately from one big wave to 2 waves, half the size, twice as fast. And if I put more energy in from there, it goes from 2 waves to 3, and 3 to 4, and 5, and 6, and 7, and so forth, all the way up to infinity. This is how nature is counting, okay? So on the musical sense, or side of life, it's coming to you simply as fun and games, as big, brightly colored objects that you're naturally attuned to engage with and have fun. But obviously, we understand that the cosmos is operating on these same principles all the way to the whole dang thing. And we know now, being modern smarty pants people, that it goes all the way down to the very nature of matter itself, like the periodic table of elements, okay? So these are also these temporal oscillations, regular temporal oscillations. Okay, so enough chitter chatter. I'm gonna demonstrate this thing just a little bit here. So I'll get the trombone out. And I'm just gonna play the very first one, okay? This is the big boy. This is the first harmonic, okay? One big wave, as I said, from here where I blow into it, and in some mysterious way, this air in here resonates and forms a standing wave, and some mysterious point here, I don't know where, it turns around and goes back, okay? Let's check it out. There's the big one. Now, I'll just put a little bit more energy into that, and we can hear what happens then when it snaps into 2, okay? So you can hear right away, because obviously, being Earth fans, you're the smartest people in New York City. You can hear that music has already been born there. That's what we call the major chord, okay? And a little something else, but we don't want to talk about that. Okay, so it's this major chord, and so you can imagine then, and ancient peoples camped out by a marsh for whatever reason, and at the edge of the marsh there are growing large reeds, and they get old and die, and they become brittle, and some break off, and then the wind blows across the top of these reeds, and there too you would hear this harmonic series. And this is probably how people came into contact with music in this sense, with harmony, making flutes and stuff out of these reeds. And if you read the ancient texts, the Bible, some of the ancient Taoist ones, I'm sure many others that I haven't read, you'll find stories that reference this. And if you know, then you know. You know? Yeah. Okay. So, what's so cool, okay, just to sort of lengthen this metaphor of music as a language a little bit, if we think then of a song as a story, this harmonic series that generates music then provides something that we would call the key in music. And as people, when we're listening to these songs, just like we would when we're reading a story, we identify this key, this home base, as a sort of main character, as a narrator. And in a sense, that first note that I played, we would sort of identify that as the sound itself, the sound of the trombone itself, the selfness of this trombone. And there's two things to know about the harmonic series, okay? And the first one, I'm just gonna be giving it away because we don't have all day here, but it's the powers of two, okay? So all of these doublings and halvings are gonna possess this quality. Let's check out the first two again, okay? Those two notes, one is higher and one is lower, for sure. They're different in that way. But as humans, we say it's the same note. They're just different octaves. That's the music word that we use. And so this mysterious same note quality, but different, that's the powers of two. And the powers of two, all these doublings. So by that I mean 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, Nintendo 64. If you're old enough, you remember when the Nintendos and all the everythings were moving in this doubling way, because that's what the computer chips were doing. But more close to home, that's what a cell would do. If you had a single cell, and then the cell divides into 2, and those 2 cells divide into 4 and into 8, we can see where this instinctual identification of the self, it makes sense. And this is what's happening, of course, in our lives with our experience. We're born, and the next day we wake up and we're still that same person. And we have that octave of experience. And then more time goes by, and we accrue these octaves of experience. And the next part, sounds like we're having a little bit of a malfunction here. Then the next thing to notice is that between these powers of 2, these octaves, 1 and 2, okay, there's nothing there. Between 2 and 4, there's something missing, 3. And between 4 and 8, there's even more, 5, 6, 7. And of course, between 8 and 16, there's even more. And this is, in a way, a type of like granularity that's increasing. And this is, of course, our experience in life as well. As we grow and come to know ourselves more, we have finer and finer ways of understanding the world around us. So, okay, we've identified the self in sound, these powers of 2. Let's see what else there is. So having identified the self, we can hear this note now. It's just different. And that's the other thing about the harmonic series you need to know. The powers of 2, which we talked about, and then the prime numbers. Those ones are magic. They're unique in the harmonic series, just as they are in the universe. So there we're talking 1, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, I think 19, right? 23, 29, 31, 37. No, yeah? Okay, thank you. I knew there'd be some math people here. Thank you. Okay. Now I'm going to switch demonstration instruments here to this little toy Casio. What's so cool about this little Casio is that it takes a sample, and in order to lay the sample out on this piano-like keyboard, it has to change the speed of the sample. So it serves as a nice way to kind of marry these two domains, wow, to marry the harmonic series, which is so obvious in the pitch world, the faster than you domain, with this other half, this tempo business, rhythm. So let me put a sample in here and we'll check it out. All right. So here we go. First harmonic. Okay. Powers of two. And now, having identified ourselves here, we encounter the other. And we can feel that. And this natural predisposition to this stuff, I find this to be extremely hopeful for us as a species. To go back to our metaphor of the story and the language, this natural thing that we do when we encounter the other in this story, this three, we know who we are, we're two, and all the others, we're the powers of two. And then we've encountered this three. And our first reaction is to say, okay, first we say, wow, something else. And then we say, what if I was the three? Then what would that be like? And I find that hopeful because it's saying that this hierarchical understanding of resonant oscillation in the universe that we seem to have, it seems designed, pre-designed, it's designed, there's no other word for it, for empathy. And I don't find that to be a weakness or a lack of intelligence. It's quite the opposite. It's our strength. It's one of our superpowers. So, let's check that out. In order to find out what it's like, I can't change the speed of me, but I can let out a little bit more line. So let's go back. We'll just find just the two here for a second. One, two. And then I let out just a little bit more line like this. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Talk about that too much. You already know that that is music. That's what we're doing here tonight. We're having a bit of a worship service in honor of sound and tone. Yeah! Referred to as this kind of letting out of a little more line, that's growing. So there's that too. We increase our granularity with between these octaves of experience over our life, our ability to understand the other. And as we encounter the other, we also grow. And so there's this sort of mirror world. And this is what's happening. This is the game we're playing with music at a very simple level. I call it the Paleolithic preschool, because I do believe that the ancient peoples were active in this sort of thing. And I find it so hopeful. I bring it to you tonight. I think it's important. And the reason that I do that is because I think if there's anything that we can all actually agree on, it's that we need a different reason to live for. Desire for things, buying things, arguing over little bits of nonsense. It's not working out so well. And we all know that sort of binary thing. Either you're on this one team or this other team. It seems to be quite rapidly separating into this. And I would like to advocate for an other way. But I should say, we're not going to figure it out here tonight. That's okay. None of us will figure it out in our lifetime, I believe. And to come to some conclusion too soon actually would of course lead to many unintended consequences, which has happened many, many, many times over and over again. Simply to run the same game again, just with higher stakes. And that's not what we're looking for. You are a self-selecting group. You've already opted into this situation because you're here tonight. So you appreciate this already. But I will say it's pointing to some mysterious way that we can't imagine right now of how we could be as a species. And if I can ask anything of anyone, and I would humbly ask it of you, it's that simply in our lifetimes we make space for this idea, this possibility, this imagination of the unknown, which is a hopeful one, I think. I had a friend, he said this thing which I loved, he passed away. I don't actually know what he meant by it, but he used to say, is it cancer or is it the answer? I know, maybe it was just a cool rhyme, but I loved it because I thought that it pointed to these two modalities that we seem to operate in. We have this instinct and this belief that we are the answer, that we're special, and I think that we are something special. I love people. But often enough, we're acting as a cancer on the planet. And we all know this, it's okay. I'm not above it, man. Like, hey, I buy my coffee in disposable cups all the damn time. I use way more gas than any of you people, for sure. Of course, New York, please. Okay. But as I said, if I can ask anything of you, it would be simply that each of us take care to sweep the little space of psychic sidewalk that is our own in front of us. And as we head for the exits, that we throw down a welcome mat of some kind. And then maybe our children, or your neighbor's children, will see this welcome mat and they'll be inspired to frame out a doorway. And then the children's children might start to build some walls, and the children's children's children get lost in these generational. It's like the begats in the Bible parts. It's like, oh my God, okay. Anyway, sorry. 4, 5, 6, 7 generations down the line, let's say, we've built out this schoolhouse. They got a roof on it, the electrical, they did the permits, everything. It's amazing. And along comes a teacher. And this teacher, far off down the way, then could help those people find a new way to be, a way that's more true to our essence. I don't believe that we could be a cancer. I believe that we must have some purpose in nature, but I think we're having trouble finding it. And I think this points to it, this mysterious predilection that we have, which we love it, you know, but we put it in movies and behind commercials and all of this kind of stuff. But maybe there's even more to it, this music thing. It's worth thinking about. I'd just like to wrap up here. I am so thankful that you're listening to all of this. Just say a couple more things here. When I was younger, the kind of like, I don't know, the big thing, it seemed, when I was a kid was like between like, do you believe in God or do you believe in science, right? Do you believe the Bible, like there is a God, or do you believe science, like there's no God and it's random or whatever? And I was raised going to church, so I have that seed in me. I'm a religious person. I'm a believer. I won't speak to what I believe, but I have this kind of belief. And likewise, my mom was a teacher, so I went to school and was raised scientifically, and I believe in that too. I don't see them as mutually exclusive. In fact, I think you could dedicate your entire life to a particular spiritual practice. You could put in, forgive me, but a shit ton of time doing that and go to the ashram. And at some point, many years down the road, you may arrive at a point of great insight and clarity. And you could speak with great authority on the nature of reality. I believe this to be true. And likewise, I believe that you could dedicate your life to science and study and study and study and do all the degrees. I didn't go to college, I can't remember what they're called, but eventually you get a PhD, I know that. I'm going for the honorary one. I'm skipping over the top. That's right. Okay, I believe you could dedicate your life to this thing. You could go live at the Hadron Collider, okay, and you could spend a lot of time there and learn to speak the language of the atoms, and you could just know what's up with those little pictures that they put out of the things shooting out everywhere, and you could get a lot out of that. I think you would there too arrive at a point of great insight and clarity and be able to speak with great authority on the nature of reality. But for most of us, regular people, and that's me, we have problems and jobs and bills and families. Our cars break down and we have stuff to do. We can't be at the ashram or at the Hadron Collider our whole lives. And in this sense, science and religion, these two supposed opposite authority figures in our world, and they are still in effect, of course, they're offering us the same thing. They're offering us experts who have been there and done that and are telling us what's what, ultimately. And even though they can both provide, proof, you can read the papers if you want. Good luck with that. And likewise, you can read the Bible and so forth and, have fun. It's good. But both of them are asking you to take this on faith, to believe something on faith. That is a word that gets used a lot, especially now. And I believe that music is coming directly to you in a different way. Music is coming to you and asking you to engage with it, and it will teach you something. It will give you knowing with a capital K. And this is something now that you can go forth into the world and have faith in this thing. And that is so powerful. I'll speak for myself. It's provided such a valuable ground floor, this thing. I've been able to, run it over with the car, throw it in the garbage, light it on fire. I've given up more times than you can count. And every time I find that ground floor, and I can push off of that ground floor and come into the world. And that's a very awesome feeling. And it's there for you too. I know you're here tonight already engaging with it, so I'm not really telling you anything you don't know. Music is beautiful and special. And Dylan Carlson, my friend who plays guitar here, he's taught me so much about that simply through his courage to play tones and let them be. He doesn't panic. He doesn't get worried. He lets the sound do the thing. And that's why you're here tonight. That's why I'm here tonight. That's what we're up to. We're gonna tell you these story songs, and every song that we play tonight, it's in the same key, and we'll go here and there to these other places. And when we come back home, you will always know it automatically. I promise. That's why you're here. And I'm so grateful that you took the time, I guess I forced you, to listen to me, giving this little bit of a talk about what the music of Earth has meant to me. So I thank you for that. And I'm gonna play one more song. It's called Happy Ending, and it's off of an album of mine. And then I'm gonna finish that song, and we're gonna leave and smoke a couple of cigarettes, and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna play Hex for you. It's gonna be beautiful. So thank you so much for being here, and thank you for listening. Thank you so much. We're going to take a short break and then we'll be right back.